Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Session number 10 of Islamic law. It's about injunctions about family life. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Polygamy. The Quran has prescribed monogamy, that is, one wife at a time, as a matter of rule. In case of constancy becoming extremely difficult with the wife, that is, details will come under the different heading in divorce, a second wife is allowed in her place, as said in Ayah 4-20. And if you decide to take a wife in the place of another, let it be made clear immediately that it does not mean that you're free to divorce your wife anytime you like and bring another one in her place. The conditions under which divorce can be resorted to are being described in a separate chapter. Monogamy is the principle laid down by Quran. But if any particular circumstances crop up in society, for example, on account of war, when the number of widows and young girls increases, and there is no satisfactory remedy for it, is in view, the Islamic government can allow a man to marry more than one woman, up to 4, making an exception in the one wife rule. But there are two essential conditions under which it can be allowed. Firstly, that the man doing so can do justice with his wives. And secondly, that he is capable of supporting this large family. In any of these two conditions, if any of these two conditions cannot be fulfilled, the second marriage is not allowed. Surah An-Nisa states in Ayah 4-3, if ever such circumstances occur, for example, on account of a war that in the society men are lost or perished, and widows and orphans, boys and girls increase, especially women without husbands, as said in Ayah 4-127, and an equitable and just solution cannot otherwise be found. Under such circumstances, it is allowed, for the sake of protection of these widows and orphans, that you can marry out of these women whom you like, those who are willing to marry you, as said in Ayah 4-19. For this purpose, exception is given in the principle of one wife at a time. In such an event, as the circumstances require and as the society decides, 2 or 3 or 4 wives at a time can be taken in marriage. But if you feel that in so doing, you shall not be able to keep the scales of justice balanced among the different family members, then one man and one wife shall remain the law, or the female slaves that you already possess have brought in your nikah. After the advent of Islam, the custom of acquiring captives was abolished. In respect of possessing female captives, the words you already possess are to be taken special note of. Limiting to one wife is a much better course to avoid injustice in the family and to avoid additional encumbrances due to abundance of progeny. This is the only verse in the Quran that allows polygamy, and as can be observed, it is conditional. If you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphans, and then only one wife is allowed. Without the occurrence of this condition, polygamy is disallowed. Let it be made clear that the word is not limited to mean only orphan boys and girls. The unmarried girls and women are also included in it. See Lughatul Quran. In the Quran itself, you find the word ayah 4-127, that is orphan, widow, or woman, as regard the condition of maintaining justice. It is not possible in this respect. Here, justice means that you do not become so deeply inclined towards one wife that the other is left unattended to and uncared for, as said in ayah 4-129. Remember that under the circumstances explained in verse 4-3, when you marry more than one wife, you shall have to deal with them justly. As far as love and affection is concerned, it is impossible to deal with different wives equally. You will not be able to do so, no matter how much you desire it, because such things are related to emotions, and equality in sentiments is just not possible. Here, the justice which is aimed at and which is possible is that you do not become so much devoted to one wife that the other remains totally neglected. However, in social matters, deal with them on the basis of equality. This shall meet the demand of justice according to the divine law, and by so doing, you shall be protected against the pernicious effects of emotional imbalance. The divine law in this manner makes room for your protection and nourishment. Remember that when a nation feels the urgency to solve the problem of widows and orphans, the women also shall take equal part in this decision. Men alone shall not decide it. It shows that even under the extraordinary circumstances, the consent of the first wife shall be mandatory. Otherwise, the home shall turn into a hell. Except under the circumstances described above, a second wife is not allowed. 7. Female captives. During the period when Quran was revealed, the slaves or captives, both men and women, were part of Arab society. The Quran closed the door of slavery, and captive women who were part of the household were either made a part of the respective families, that is, were taken into wedlock, or were gradually freed. The words, whenever they occur in the Quran, means these captive women who were present in those days. Now the question of slave women does not arise. 8. Facilitation for marriage. The society ought to provide facilities to those who possess competence for marriage. The Quran addresses the Islamic society by saying in ayah 24-32, make proper arrangement for the marriage of those men and women who have not got the adequate facilities for marriage. But to get married is not an injunction. It is not necessary that men and women must get married. Those who wish to lead an unmarried life and for whom the means to get married are not available should control their passion or abstain. That is said in ayah 24-33. Those who prefer to celebrate life or have not the wherewithal for marriage should exercise self control. During a state of extreme hunger, the Holy Quran has allowed the eating of unlawful things according to need, but has not allowed fornication or adultery to satisfy one's sexual passions. Obviously, man does not possess control over hunger, but on the other hand, sexual urges are purely thought motivated. Therefore, the question of sexual constraint, that is, helplessness, does not arise. An Islamic society creates an environment in which sexual stimulations are least liable to occur. 9. Sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse is prohibited under the following conditions: A. During menstruation. B. While fasting. However, it is permitted during nights in the month of Ramadan, before the start and after termination of the fast. C. While one is in retreat, itikaf in the mass, during the month of Ramadan. 10. object of sexual intercourse. The Quran says in Ayah 2-223, your wives are as a tilt unto you. So approach your wife when you so approach your tilts when you so desire. This brings forth an important fact. One goes to the tilt in order to sow the seeds. Therefore, the object of sexual intercourse ought to be the augmentation of human race, not pleasure alone. This augmentation ought to be thoughtfully planned. It should not only meet personal requirements but also collective social exigencies. Approach the tilt means that you have sexual intercourse when you desire to have a child. This system of controlled mating prevails in nature. As yet another place, the words, as said in Ayah 4-24, have been used for it, which means that the object of marriage is fortification of your procreative energies within the bounds of wedlock and not the mere satisfaction of your lust, not to let your semen flow out purposelessly. However, this is our deduction from the verses of Quran. 11. The object of matrimonial life. The object of matrimonial life is that a husband and a wife cultivate love and companionship so as to make life tranquil at home, life of peace and solace. Thus it is said in Ayah 30-21, among his signs is that he created for you the mates from among yourselves, that you may dwell in tranquility with them, and as much he has created such a deep relationship between yourself as a means of actualization of potentialities for both of you. Verily, in that are the signs for those who reflect. As to how much concord is present in the relationship between husband and wife, the Quran has beautifully described a metaphor. When it is said in Ayah 2-187, they are an apparel for you, and you are an apparel for them. As far as the mutual rights and obligations are concerned, the Quran has condensed it in its one comprehensive sentence when it is said in Ayah 2-228, the obligations of women shall be equal to their rights, one obligation against each right. It has been described earlier that in view of the duties incumbent upon women on account of their biological structure, the responsibility of earning sustenance for them rests upon men, as said in Ayah 4-34. The relationship also expand through marriages. Relationships of marriage, that is in-laws, come into existence in addition to the relationship of lineage, as said in Ayah 25-54. In it are included both relationships of lineage and the in-laws. 12. Dower. A. In Surah An-Nisa, after giving the details of those between whom marriage is unlawful, it is said in Ayah 4-24 and Ayah 5-5, except such women, others are lawful provided you seek them in marriage with gifts from your property. The term mahr, dower, is used for these gifts in fiqh, that is jurisprudence. The word mahr does not occur in the Quran. Instead, the words ajur or saduka have been used. The Quran has explained it further that mahr is not a compensation for anything. This is a gift without the concept of remuneration or reward. The Quran has also used the word nihlah for it, as in Ayah 4-4, and give the women on marriage their dower as free gift. In giving a gift is no concept of gain or compensation. B. No amount of dower has been stipulated by Quran. Anything decided by mutual consent is mahr, but because its payment is essential, it has been termed as duly divine command, as said in Ayah 2-236 to 2-237. Therefore, it ought to be proportionate to one's economic status. In this connection, guidance is also available in Ayah 2-236. It might expand to a heap of gold, that is 4, as said in Ayah 4-20. In this verse, kintar means a heap of gold. C. The payment of dower ought to be made soon after nikah at the time of marriage. But it is evident from the verse 2-236 of Surah Al-Baqarah that an occasion may arise when the amount of dower could not be fixed at the time of marriage. In this verse, it has been explained in Ayah 2-236. There is no blame on you if you divorce women before consummation or the fixation of their dower. It means that if for some reason the amount of dower could not be fixed at the time of marriage, it can be determined later on. D. Dower is the property of woman. No one has the right to deprive her of this amount. However, a woman can remit a part thereof if she so desires. As said in Ayah 4-4, pay the dower of your wives without any notion of a reward. Like the honeybee giving her honey, there is no concept of reward in it. Since the dower is a gift and not an exchange, women cheerfully remits a part of it. You can by all means use it for yourself. A little later in the same surah has been said that the amount of dower can be altered by mutual consent. In the words of Quran, as said in Ayah 4-24, but if you agree mutually to vary the dower after it has been prescribed, there is no blame on you. E. After marriage, if divorce occurs before consummation, then number one, if dower has not been fixed, then the man ought to pay something according to his economic status. Surah Al-Baqarah, as said in Ayah 2-236 and 33-49. There is no blame on you if you divorce women before consummation or the fixing of their dower, but bestow on them as suitable gift. The wealthy according to his means, and the poor according to his means, so that the loss she has thus suffered may be made good to a certain extent. Gift of reasonable amount is due from those who wish to do the right thing. 2. If dower was not fixed, half of it shall have to be paid. But if the woman or her agent so agrees, or if the court of law thinks it necessary under certain circumstances, it can also be remitted fully. In Ayah 2-237. And if you divorce them before consummation, and the dower had been fixed, half of the dower that is due to them, unless they forego it unwillingly, or it is remitted by him in whose hands is the marriage tie. And to forego what is due to you is more near to taqwa, that is adherence to Allah's law. And forget not that you have to act with grace towards one another. Surely Allah sees all what you do. Verse 2-237 should be kept in mind. In whose hands is the marriage tie? It is often deduced from this that marriage tie is in the hands of the husband. Keeping in mind the common concept that only the man has the right to divorce. But in our viewpoint, this deduction is not correct. We shall elaborate on that later. According to the Holy Quran, the right to divorce belongs equally to man as well as to the woman. Here, the meanings of the words can mean the woman's agent in the court of law or the court of law itself. So, this will be discussed in the Talaq divorce chapter. F. If a woman is guilty of immodesty, something can be deducted from her dower, as said in Ayah 4-19. O you who believe, as has been said in Ayah 4-3, that a man should exercise his choice in marrying a woman. Likewise, the consent of women is also necessary for marriage. You are forbidden to become masters of women forcibly against their will, nor it is justifiable for you to keep them against their will with the intent of bargaining to recover a part of what you have paid them. This is not permitted except where they have been guilty or guilty of open immodesty. In such a case, the court can allow you a part of it. It is apparent that a case like this can only be decided by the law court. G. If a woman demands divorce, the court of law agrees. She shall have to pay something for it. That is Ayah 2-29. It may necessarily be out of the dower money. This is only the reference sake. Details shall come under the heading of the divorce. Note, dowry, the paraphernalia of a bride, is merely a custom which has not been ordained by Quran. It is extremely unfair on the part of man to demand jahez, that is dowry. The Quran has ordained man to give something, not to take anything from the woman. This is, in fact, a Hindu custom which Muslims have appropriated. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, here I'll end this session, and inshallah, we will continue further the same injunctions about the family life. This still continues in the next video sessions. Uh, let's pray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us that wisdom to learn Holy Quran and related Islamic laws with, with its true sense, and gives us courage to apply these laws on our lives and our surroundings and countries and world as a whole. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be our best guide and protector, and He bestows upon us whatever best suits us. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves, your kith and kins, and your environment as a whole. And till next time, Allah Hafiz.